Is a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface of this asset, or are investors staring down the barrel of a major correction? Right now, the indicators are painting a highly conflicting picture. Massive sell signals are flashing across the short-term charts, and the dominant trend is leaning into a clear downward slope. Yet a passionate group of market analysts are holding their ground, insisting that this specific asset is deeply undervalued. Are they identifying a generational accumulation zone, or are they stepping right into a classic liquidity trap? Let's break down exactly what we are looking at on the dashboard. This is the CORZon tokenized stock through Ondo, trading under the ticker CORZon. It is currently sitting at a flat $27.30, showing absolute stagnation with a 0% change over the last 24 hours. For those who aren't familiar with the underlying plumbing, CORZon is one of the absolute giants in the digital asset mining and high-performance computing infrastructure space. By tokenizing this equity through Ondo, investors get a blockchain-native way to gain exposure to real-world data center power and Bitcoin infrastructure. It is heavily in focus right now because the intersection of artificial intelligence compute demand and digital asset mining is reaching a critical tipping point, making this specific hybrid asset a battleground for institutional capital and retail speculation alike. Before we dive deep into the technical chart patterns and unlock the hidden levels, do me a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel right now, and it is absolutely compulsory that you leave a comment down below. Tell me your immediate game plan for CORZon. Are you actively accumulating at $27? Are you sitting completely on the sidelines, or are you shorting this structural weakness? Seriously, stop scrolling, drop your comment right now, and let's get the community debate moving. Now let's pull up the technical analysis and look at the raw price action. When you map out the multi-week trajectory, the trend direction is showcasing a slow, painful grind downward, marked by a steady succession of lower distribution peaks. We are tracking an incredibly critical support level, right around the $25 psychological mark, while overhead resistance has heavily consolidated near $30. Momentum is completely flatlined, as evidenced by the 0% daily movement, showing a massive standoff between buyers and sellers.
This short-term lack of volatility is actually a sign of underlying structural weakness. When a market refuses to bounce despite broader sector strength, it shows that buying pressure is completely exhausted and the path of least resistance is heavily weighted to the downside. The technical breakdown looks incredibly vulnerable, and the surrounding market ratings are echoing that exact caution. The consensus among quantitative analysts is leaning toward a definitive hold-to-sell posture, with short-term signals warning of a potential liquidity sweep lower. The lack of upward momentum is itself a massive negative signal, pointing to institutional distribution, where large blocks are being quietly unwound without driving the nominal price up.
The immediate short-term outlook remains highly defensive, suggesting that unless an aggressive wave of volume breaks through the $30 resistance wall, the asset will likely bleed out toward its lower macro boundaries. This brings us to the core of the debate. Is CORZon genuinely undervalued, or is it a sophisticated psychological trap? The bullish contingent argues that you are getting tokenized access to massive, hard-to-replicate data center infrastructure at a massive discount relative to pure-play AI tech stocks. They look at $27 and see a spring loaded for a massive breakout. On the flip side, the bear camp views this as a classic value trap. An asset can look incredibly cheap on paper, but if the market is pricing in structural dilution, rising energy costs, or broader blockchain-native liquidity shifts, that cheap price tag is nothing more than an illusion designed to trap impatient capital. The downside risks here are unique and potentially brutal. Because this is a tokenized representation of a stock, you are exposed to a double layer of volatility: the standard equity market risks, of CORZon's operational overhead, combined with the 24/7 liquidity dynamics of the decentralized finance space. Retail traders constantly get trapped in these setups because they confuse a sideways flatline chart with a safe stability zone. They buy in thinking the downside is protected, completely forgetting that a sudden, sharp macro liquidating event can wipe out key support levels in a matter of minutes, leaving them holding a highly illiquid asset while larger entities exit through the back door. Let's lay out the definitive bull case versus the bear case for this asset. In the absolute best case recovery scenario, CORZon announces a massive, high-margin enterprise AI hosting contract, causing Ondo's tokenized ecosystem to flood with new institutional inflows. This would trigger a massive short-term supply shock, blasting the price straight through the $30 resistance and validating the undervalued thesis. Conversely, the worst-case bear scenario involves a continuation lower. If power grids tighten or tech valuations experience a broader industry-wide pullback, the $25 support will completely give way, accelerating a rapid descent into the low 20s as panic selling takes over the order books. Looking at the broader outlook, the short-term perspective demands extreme patience and defensive positioning due to the total absence of buying velocity and the presence of underlying sell signals. Long-term, however, the trajectory will be entirely written by how effectively the underlying company scales its high-performance computing infrastructure and whether tokenized real-world assets maintain their premium demand in the global market. So where exactly does that leave us at $27.30? We have a massive infrastructure play frozen in place, surrounded by technical weakness, but backed by undeniable real-world compute power. Is this the dead silent accumulation phase right before a legendary vertical liftoff? Or are we watching the slow-motion collapse of a high-altitude value trap? The data points to a highly dangerous crossroads, but the market loves to completely blindside the majority. What is your actual move? If you want to tailor this further for your recording, let me know if you want to expand on Ondo's real-world asset mechanics, add specific volume profile details to the technical analysis, or include a breakdown of standard CORZon stock to compare the pricing gap.